Let's go to Rich Phillips, voice of the SMU Mustang. Rich, how are you today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Rich, thanks for joining us. Getting into tonight's matchup, your team, SMU, that averages 80 points a game, and Syracuse has been poor defensively. Do you see this game being played in the 80s? And, does Syracuse have enough firepower, do you think, to withstand SMU tonight?
Well, certainly a big question about if it's in the 80s is going to be if Boopy Miller, the Mustangs point guard, is back healthy. All signs are good that he is likely to play tonight. They've gone the last 5 without him and lost only won 2 of the 5 games without him, and scoring and offense in general has been a bit of a struggle, and really it's been turnovers. They settled down in the second half of the Stanford game on Saturday with just 3 in the second half after 9 in the first half, and games before that, 18 turnovers and 16 turnovers. So obviously you're a guy that leads in scoring, and he's one of the leaders in the league in assists, where Boopy Miller is. It's going to be pretty big to have him back in the lineup tonight.
Syracuse knows all too well about turnovers. I think they're at the bottom of the conference in averaging about 15, 16 a game. You talked about Boopy Miller. Big picture with this SMU team. Like, do these guys feel that, we need to win out, or do they feel that they're a tournament team? Like, how is it being looked at? Like, you don't have a bad loss, truly, but you just don't have that marquee win.
Yeah, that's the problem when you start leaving it in the hands of the committee to decide your fate, and they look at you 0-5 in quad 1 games where they are right now, and they don't have another one on their schedule unless, depending on who they get in the conference tournament next week. I do believe they're kind of in that mentality. They need to win out and probably win some next week too. With 21 wins right now and not those quality wins, they are firmly planted on the bubble. And teams that are in that spot around 40, they're 41 in the net with no quality, no quad 1 wins, don't get in the NCAA tournament a whole lot. So the bubble is firmly where SMU is sitting right now.
When SMU is clicking, what's happening with this team? Obviously, you touched on it, hinges on Boopy Miller. Like he's a key piece, but when you're putting up 100 and some points against Miami, and down the line, 97 against Notre Dame, what was clicking for the Mustangs?
Getting up and down the court, and fast break is what they really want to do, and when they get it moving, they can be really dangerous. They've got 6 guys that average double digits this season. Ole Miss is the only other school in the country that has 6 guys averaging double figures this season, and all those guys are capable of having big games. Chuck Harris has had a couple of 20-point games. Cario Oquendo, who normally is the 6th man, has been starting with Boopy out, but he's had a 25-point game and a couple of other 20-point outings, and their big man, Samet Yugitolu, can score a bunch for him, too. They need to get out and run. That's what they want to do, and that's where they can be their most dangerous offensively.
Andy Enfield's your head coach, and he's a guy that, it didn't work out the previous school, and he comes in, he's had success here at SMU. Like, Syracuse fans right now are clamoring for Adrian Autry in year number 2. Like, what have you seen out of Andy with this SMU team that maybe you can relate to what's happened here at SU, if anything?
The thing that's really struck me about Andy is how he kind of runs it like it's a pro organization, which is kind of where, obviously, the sport is going with NIL and everything these days. But he treats his guys like they're not college students. They're grown men. They're adults. And, they don't have a whole bunch of hard and fast rules set for the team. It gives them a system that should be fun to play in because he always wants his teams to run up and down the court, too. He demands a lot of them because they still have to play at the other end of the floor defensively, or they're going to lose minutes quickly. Boopy Miller's a guy who learned that. I mean, he didn't lose a ton of minutes, but he's really ramped up his defense from the start of the season to this point of the season. Cario Oquendo is another guy, and we were just talking on our coach's show last night, and he said he really wasn't good at all defensively at the start of the season, and he's become really good for them defensively. He demands a lot of his guys, but he treats them with respect and treats them like they're professionals, and it's been a really good atmosphere with what's really a new team, too. I mean, they have 10 newcomers on this team this year, and it's been a really fun atmosphere for them.
Rich Phillips joining us, the voice of the Mustangs, an SMU team that's giving up about 72 points a game. When you look at the ACC as a whole, Have you ever seen, at the top, the disparity it is with the 4 teams, 5 teams, and then how everyone is bunched? Have you ever seen that before in a conference?
It's weird. I know that. I know this. This is, of course, my first year in the ACC. And I was struck at how different the top to the bottom is. And really the top, like you said, 3, 4, 5 teams to where everybody else is kind of middling there in the middle. And then you've got a couple at the bottom like Miami and what. But I was surprised at how far the disparity has been. Now, with SMU, I've seen the Conference USA days where Memphis was a team that went to the national championship game and everybody else was struggling to get to 20 wins on the season. So I've seen one team disparity.
Yeah, same in the Big East days with like a UConn is how we were comparing it here. Yeah.
Yeah, and at some points this year, it looked like the ACC was that way as far out as Duke got early in the season, but obviously Clemson and Louisville has shown to be really good as well. But it's definitely unusual to see it in the ACC as an outsider. It's not what I expected to see, that kind of disparity in the league this year.
SMU joins the conference, and you've had success in football right out of the gate. You've had success in basketball right out of the gate. And to me, that wasn't a surprise, seeing where those programs have been recently. Like, has anything shocked you since joining the ACC with, I guess we can just stick with the basketball program, being able to have success right away?
I think it certainly is more success than expected, especially what they've done on the road. They're 7-2 on the road in the ACC this year. That's one shy of the school record for conference wins on the road in any conference they've ever been in. Back to a year where they went 30-5 in the American a few years ago. Their success, the way they've played on the road, has been really surprising, and the fact that physically they match up with everybody in the league very well, except maybe Duke, but not many people do. But, I've been really impressed with, and give credit to Andy Enfield. Like I said, 10 newcomers here. It's a lot of new guys he brought in, and they came in ready to go and physically and athletically set to match up with the teams in the league.
How has he attacked the day and age of the NIL? Like here at Syracuse, it's can we raise enough money now? And there's that disparity. Like, how has SMU attacked that angle of things?
Well, SMU kind of, we call it NIL, is now it's legal because, of course, 40-some years ago, we kind of got in trouble for that around here.
I didn't want to go that far.
Well, but the SMU boosters, and there's a lot of big money boosters for this private university, they've been sitting waiting for the opportunity for their programs to be good again. And now that they can do it financially to get there, they're all in. A real good example for you guys is a year and a half ago when it was first announced at the start of the 23 football season that SMU was going to move to the ACC in 24. In the first week, they raised $100 million in donations. And, it's because they're trying to cover up for part of the way they got in the league was giving up the TV football revenue for 9 years. They're making up for the difference, and that's what the fundraising goal has been. And the boosters and the well-heeled folks, they're ready for it. So the NIL world, I can tell you this about Andy Enfield, too. He is absolutely open arms to the NIL world and welcomes it. He knows that they have the ability here at SMU to come up with the funds to be competitive in the NIL world, and he loves it. We've seen coaches, obviously, a guy that SMU is going to see Saturday, Leonard Hamilton, I think, is ready to get out of the NIL world, and Jim Larinaga obviously was, and I think maybe Tony Bennett too, but Andy Enfield absolutely welcomes it with open arms.
Yeah, just look over the last 5-6 years, how many coaches have left the ACC, and that's, the big question surrounding it. When you look at tonight's game, how do you see it shaking out? We had before us, Eric Diemendorf is on with Aton Thomas, and he said this game is going to be 82-72 or something like that. Like, do you see a high scoring game tonight between the two?
I think so. I think because in large part, I believe Boopy Miller will play, and that's really going to help SMU offensively. And as you mentioned, they'll give up some points, and you give up points when you score as many as they do. But, there's obviously a couple of capable guys they got to try to do something with J.J. Starling and Eddie Lampkin. We've seen Eddie before. He played against SMU a couple of years ago at TCU, and Andy Enfield coached against him last year when he was at Colorado at USC. So definitely Lampkin's a guy that's going to be an interesting matchup, especially with his overall size going against a freshman center and Samet Ugatola, who's coming off a bad game too at Stanford. But odds are it looks like it's good for SMU here tonight, but certainly should be interesting. And I don't know how we've gone this many 100 years of playing basketball, and these schools have never seen each other before.
Wild. I want to know, Rich, if you talked to Matt Park yet, and are you giving him advice as far as eating locations? Because he called into us yesterday, and
he hit 2 barbecue joints
within a matter of 10 minutes.
Yeah, so.
I have not spoken to him, but it sounds like I don't need to speak to him if he's already done that. The only thing he may be missing out is on any Tex-Mex while he's here. He's got to be sure and hit that while he's in Dallas.
We'll pass that along to him. Rich, thanks for your time today.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
All right, that's Rich Phillips, SMU play-by-play guy.
Cue up lacrosse next.
Did you hear the NIL?
When he said that I just
like. Can you imagine taking a like? There's ACC schools fighting to get money out of the TV deal to survive in the lawsuits.
Within the first year, $100 million.
And SMU doesn't even need the TV money. It's insane.